Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I am back. I'm your instructor in ARD 101, Design 1 Introduction to Design. I'm your teacher, Architect John Ray Verdejo. And time check, 1:45 in the afternoon, and I'm going to discuss to you our next topic under this course, ARD 101 or Design 1 or Introduction to Design. So this afternoon, I am going to discuss our next topic. And what is our next topic? Ano yung next topic natin? Here it is. And yun, ano ba? Principles and elements of design applied to architecture. Siguro narinig nyo naman yata siguro to during your senior high years, junior high, elementary days, nursery kinder, I don't know. Pero yung tinatawag nating principles or elements of design. But right now, we are going to relate this to the practice of architecture. How can we apply these things, yung elements tsaka yung principles, in the practice of architecture, in designing structures, buildings, whatever, no? So that's what we are going to learn this afternoon. I hope that you will endure the time. I mean that you will enjoy, that you will listen, take time in listening and watching this video so that we can also learn from this video. So you might be asking, ano ba yung pagkakaiba ng principles tsaka ng elements of design? Baka pareho lang sila. Aren't they the same? Or hindi yata sila pareho? Pareho sila? Hindi, o pareho. The answer is no. They are not the same, but they are related to each other. So yun. They are related. They are not the same, but they are related. They are connected to each other. Now, explain natin yan in what way. So when you talk about elements of design, we are going to define both principles and elements of design. First, elements of design, these are the basic components involved in creating a design. So ito yung mga components, ito yung mga bagay, no? At sabi nga dito, the elements are the tools that will help you with your design. So this refers to the tools that you are going to use so that you can come up with the design, no? Combining these elements, you can create composition, you can create a good some outcome or something. So ito yung mga tools na ginagamit mo. No? Now, on the other hand, when you talk about the principles of design, they are the rules that you should follow in design for the best outcome. So may mga bagay na dapat mong sundin, may mga bagay na dapat mong i-follow, may mga tawag doon alituntunin na dapat nating bantayan, sundin for you to come up with a good outcome. Nasamid pa ko. Excuse me po. To have a great design, you should consider each principle during your process. So lahat ng mga principle, somehow, dapat ma-consider mo, somehow ma-apply mo dapat sa ginagawa mo so that you can come up with a good design. So that's the definition of both of elements of design and the principles of design. So elements refers to the tools that you are using for your design, and the principles refers to the rules that you should follow in making your design. Gets? Now, in his book, si John, as a philosopher and a psychologist, George George Dewey concluded that everything artists and designers create has massive implication on people's everyday experiences. So yun, no? According to George Dewey, everything that an artist or the designers create, it can have a massive implication on the people's everyday experience. It's very true in architecture, tandaan nyo yan. The way you plan the building, the way you design the building, even the application of colors to the building has an effect to the people who are going to use the building, who will be staying in that building. So later on, as we progress in architecture, you will understand more of what I am saying. Now, next, design elements have an impact on how a piece of work is perceived, executed, and used, and are present in design regardless of skill, taste, or style. No? So yun daw yung design elements. So, yung mga elements natin, Later on, malalaman mo kung ano-ano yung mga elements na yon. It can be used in various ways. It can be used in different ways. No? It can have an impact. So, yung impact, depende sa kung paano mo in-apply yung mga elements. Even if as you follow the principles. So, what are the elements of design? No? So, elements of design are form, shape, line, texture, space, movement. So yun, pito. You can also comment, no, kung may mga naalala pa kayo na hindi natin na-include dito. Pero these are the basic elements of design. Form, shape, line, texture, color, space, movement. That's it. Now, we'll discuss each of those elements of design and we'll start with form. We will start with form. Ano ba yung form? We can see here in the picture or in the image or in the slide yung ano to? Cylinder, cube, ano to? Triangle, may pagka-pyramid pero ano siya, may daw parang 3D pa rin siya, yung triangle, no? Okay. So when you talk about form, everything possess a form in one way or another. So lahat daw yata has a form in one way or another. When we talk about form, we are not talking about the content of the form, but we are talking about the form itself. No? So mismo yung form, kung nakapulot ka ng bato, form na yun, that's a form. It is a form. Pero syempre later on we'll discuss about different types of forms. Like this one. So forms are that three-dimensional object. No? Three-dimensional yung forms. So, pag 2D shape yun. Ay, nag-advance ako. Pero when you talk about forms, the forms are three-dimensional. And there are two types of forms. Ano yung two types? Yung geometric, yung man-made, no? So, yun yung cylinder, pyramid, cone, cube, ano pa? Sphere, no? Pero may isa pang klase ng form, yung tawag natin is natural form or your organic. Anong example nun? Pag nakapulot ka ng shell, syempre, yun na yung shape nun. Sometimes nga, iba-iba yung shape. So that's an organic form. Sabi ko form, no? Hindi shape. So pag nakita mo yung shell, ulitin natin. Pag nakita mo yung shell, hindi ganun yung form nun, hindi siya man-made, hindi siya yung typical na nakikita natin na sphere, na perfect sphere, na perfect cube, na pyramidal. Pero of course, natural, no? That's shell, bato, no? So that's natural. So a digital or physical form can be measured by height, width, depth, no? A form can be created by combining shapes. So, pag may nakita kang isang shape dito, kinumbine mo yung isang shape, dalawang shape, by combining that two shapes, you have formed another form. Form. A form can be created by combining shapes and it can be enhanced by color or texture. Depending on their usage, they can also be ornate or utilitarian. So, yun yung form. No? So, anong klase ng form? Yung nasabi natin kanina, pyramid, cone, sphere, cube, cylinder, etc. Now, we will proceed with shape. No? Shape is this. Ano to? Square, circle, triangle, and hexagon. No? Binilang ko muna before ko sabihin na hexagon. Now, a shape is a two object that stands out from the space next to it because a shape is a two-dimensional, no? Mali yung PowerPoint, yung presentation. The shape is a two-dimensional object that stands out from the space next to it because of a defined or implied boundary. So, two-dimensional object, tandaan nyo na, take note of that, two-dimensional object. A shape can live in different areas in space. For example, pagtingin mo dun sa wall, may nakita kang frame. Anong shape ng frame? Yun. It can be in a place. No, a shape can be in a place. A shape can live in different areas in a space. No? So, yung background ko, this is a space. Anong nakikita nyong shape? No, yung marami, yung rectangular. No, by the way, I'm here in the hallway of the architecture department. No, sa mga first year dito, ito yung room ninyo, ito yung pupuntahan ninyo, ito yung klase, yung hallway na laging maingay. So anyway, let's proceed. A shape can live in different areas in space and have other elements like line, color, texture, or movement. Like forms, shape can come into different types. Yun din yun. May geometric, tsaka may organic. Yung geometric, yun yung square, triangle, hexagon, pentagon, etc. Pero may organic pa rin. Siyempre, yung shape ng flower, yung petals ng flower. Anong shape nun? Anong tawag doon? Alam mo ba? So, that's organic. No? Anong shape nung snowflakes? Ano bang shape ng snowflakes? So, maybe that can be considered organic shape. No? So that is a shape. So geometric shapes are defined as shapes that have regular appearance and are typically man-made using machines. Examples. What is a machine? Okay. Examples are circles. Yun nga yun eh. Triangles, rectangles, ovals, and etc. There are some geometric shapes found in nature, however, which include snowflakes, crystals, and other. Okay, yun. So, anyway, let's proceed. Organic shapes are defined as shapes that are irregular or are symmetrical. So, hindi siya symmetrical, asymmetrical siya. So, meaning hindi siya asymmetrical, hindi siya symmetrical, hindi siya balance. No, ang tendency niya is iba yung if you're going to look at the center axis, yung sa kabilang portion hindi ganoon, sa kabila iba rin, no? Magkaiba. Hindi nga symmetrical eh. Asymmetrical nga in appearance and tend to have a curvy flow to them. Nearly all shapes found in nature are organic in appearance. Yun nga. Examples are leaves, flowers, etc. There are shapes that are man-made that are also organic in appearance. For example, the bat in the picture. So, yun. Yung mga lavatory, may mga lavatory na organic yung shape, hindi mo ma-define kung ano yung shape niya talaga kasi organic or irregular yung shape niya. No, pwede natin gawin yun. There are shapes that can be man-made, that can be man-made. So, yun. So, basically, when you talk about shape and form is 3D. The shape and the structure of something is distinguished from its substance or material. When you talk about shape, 2D, two-dimensional, contour that characterizes an object or an area. So, basically, yun lang yun. Form is 3D, shape is 2D. So, example dito is yun, yung mga in Germany, no? The Marie Elizabeth Loder's house in Berlin. So you can see combination of forms or shapes, a shape of a triangle circle, no, applied in a building, and the circle was cut from a shape of square. So ang makikita mo dito may square na, may circle pa. No? So parang ganun, that's how they play with shapes in design. So in effect, nakaka-create sila ng attractive design, aesthetically pleasing and appealing ng mga designs. So yun, this is a good example of how a shape is applied, no, or was applied in a building. So yun, ginawa yung panel, yung facade may square, pero nag-cut sila ng shape na circle, and in fact yun yung itsura niya. Now, this Oriental Pearl Tower in Shanghai by architect Wan Cheng. Ano makikita mo dito? Of course, combination of forms. May cylinder, may sphere, may siguro may pagka conical, no? So that's a good example of how forms are applied in a building, in a structure, no? So yun. Now let's proceed with number 3. Elements of design And that's the third. The third is line. Ano ba yung line na tinatawag? When you talk about line, it's often the starting point for all artistic expression. No? The line is one of the most essential elements of design. So line. It always has more length than thickness and can be unbroken. It can be unbroken, broken, or implied. Sabi ko lang broken na sambit ako kagad. A line can be vertical, diagonal, horizontal, and curved. It can be in any width, size, shape, position, direction, interval, or density. So yun daw yung line. Point creates line. So one point to another point, no? I-connect mo siya, ay sila. One point, another point, nag-connect sila. That's line. A line can have other elements like color, texture, movement applied to it. Through basic in appearance, lines can control the viewer's thoughts and emotion and lead a viewer's eye through space. So yun daw yung line. It's very important elements in design. So, ito yung parang pinoportray or ini-imply na mga this how lines no depict or imply something in a design. For example, yung vertical. No, ano ba yung pinapakita niya? What idea it creates, it gives to the viewer? Vertical lines, it represents it represents dignity, no? Parang kung mga vertical lines daw, parang mga dignified na mga, that's why may mga high-rise buildings, mga skyscrapers. That's why mga rich, yung mga countries nagpapataas na ng mga building. It may give them a sense of dignity and pride if they have the tallest building. Also, it implies formality, stability, strength, and yun. So that's vertical. No? So that's why mga skyscraper, no? Naalala nyo mga Burj Al Arab, Burj Al Dubai, yung mga unang-unang mga high-rise building, mga skyscrapers, mga yung Sears Tower in Chicago, Empire State Building in New York, yung mga Chrysler Building, yun. So, dignity, stability, strength, formality, vertical, high-rise, skyscraper. Also, when you talk about horizontal lines, ano ba yung mga structures na primarily yung mga lines na nakikita mo is horizontal. But basically, when you talk about horizontal lines, it represents calmness. Calmness. Like for example, horizon. When you are in the beach, no? Tumitingin ka sa malayo, anong nakikita mo? Syempre, beach. Sa dulo nun, yung horizon. How does it affect you? Sometimes, no? Generally, syempre, medyo nare-relax ka, no? Calmness, peace, and relaxation. That's why kung gusto mo kung medyo stress ka, ang ginagawa mo, namamasyal ka, pumupunta ka sa malalapad na mga lugar, sa magagandang mga lugar. Ewan ko yung iba siguro kung saan pumupunta. Pero yun, that's how it represents, that's how horizontal lines no affect or yun yung horizontal line, parang ganun yung pinipresent niya, calmness and peace, relaxation. Now when you talk about diagonal lines, it represents action, activity, excitement, and movement. So yun, diagonal lines. So makikita mo may mga examples yata tayo dito kung paano ginamit yung mga lines na to in relation to the function of the structure. Curve, no? Yung curve, Yakult, no? Parang ng Yakult, represents freedom, natural, having the appearance of softness, and creates a soothing feeling or mood. So pag curve, freedom, softness, natural. Pag vertical, dignity, formality, stability; horizontal, calmness, relaxation; diagonal, action, movement, excitement; curve, freedom, or na natural. No? So example ng mga Vatican, Vatican. Vertical lines. So ito yun, yung Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. So when you talk about by looking at the columns, no? Nun, ang lalaki, no? How does it if how what does it speak, or what does it say about Berlin? What does it say about the location? Siyempre parang dignified, formal. It speaks about the strength or the stability of the place, of the government siguro nung lugar na yon. Parang ganun. Here's an example of a skyscraper in Madrid, Spain. Now, skyscraper speaks about the location, the country, the city, kung saan located yung structure na yon, yung skyscraper. Now, the Empire State Building, ano nga bang movie yun? Yung inakyat ni si King Kong, no? Ito yata yung building na yon. So, the Empire State Building, of course, isa sa mga unang skyscraper. Siyempre, pag sinabing skyscraper nung una, wow, grabe ang taas, ang laki. It speaks about what America is. So, yun, dignified, strength, stability, and so on. Horizontal line, Community Christian Church in Kansas City. The architect is one of my favorite architect, Frank Lloyd Wright. So, yun, horizontal line. Imagine, no, yung design niya. It seems that there is a floating slab, no? Yung roof niya flat, I think that is flat, and there is some elements of horizontal lines na mahaba in this portion and in this portion. And syempre makikita mo yung edge horizontal, no? And it was related to a church or to a church in Kansas City, no? So church, syempre pag nasa church ka, calmness, medyo peace, no? And by the application of the element which is horizontal line, parang ganun yung sinasabi niya, parang ganun yung kine-create niyang mood. So yun, ganun yun. And some other things. Marami pang mga ganung pwedeng example. Now, diagonal line. Pag diagonal line, nga, movement, no? Movement, excitement, ano pa? Probably, yun. So, may dalawang examples tayo. I forgot the name of the bridge here. Then we have here the ziggurat. This ziggurat, I forgot the exact name of this ziggurat, pero yung ziggurat na to, this is located in Central America. No, when you talk about ziggurat, that is as in the ancient, no, it is an ancient step pyramid, and the purpose of this is parang for mga temple rituals. No, sa taas nun, may temple doon, tsaka may fire altar, and the rituals are being conducted there by their priests. Because it is a step pyramid, mahirap yata akyatin to doon mismo dito mismo sa part na to. So that's why meron silang stairway going to the most important part of this ziggurat. The altar, the fire altar in this temple in the topmost portion of the structure. So diagonal, this is diagonal, and it leads to the most. It is the way, or it leads to the most important part of the structure, yung altar niya dito, no, yung ritual, yung kung saan may mga ginagawa yung mga ritual. So na-notice nyo diagonal, of course syempre diagonal, hindi naman pwede vertical to kasi syempre pyramid siya. Pero in effect, kung titingnan nyo, no, syempre diagonal lines, it, it also implies movement, no? It drags you, it leads you to the location of the most important part, no? So diagonal line. So makikita nyo may movement, may direction. Now, this is an example of a bridge. Tsaka makikita nyo yung support niya, yung main support niya, yung structure niya, syempre diagonal din, yung naka-X, yung parang naka-X. So, dun lahat ng mga cables doon naka-connect, no? So that ma-maintain yung stability nung tawag natin dito ng bridge, no? So, I think it is a suspension bridge. So, yun. So, bakit ganito yung design niya? Yung design niya, kung isipin mo, parang hindi lang siya design na design lang. Siguro ganito lang maganda or what sumasa. It speaks of the function of the structure. Because it is a bridge, it connects one place to another place or one point to another point. Siyempre, may movement, may direction, no? And the structure, the design of the structure was also a reflection of the purpose of the structure. Naku, naintindihan nyo pa? Parang ganun. So that's why ganun yung itsura ng design niya. Pwede naman siguro na i-design nila to na ano, na vertical, or pwede naman siguro design na nila na horizontal. O kahit wala ng cables, gawin na lang nila na cantilevered bridge or drawbridge. Pero bakit ganito yung design? Siyempre, hindi lang sa design yon, yung purpose niya, no? At saka at the same time, yung design niya, it speaks about the function of the structure. Parang ganun. So, ginamit nila diagonal lines. Because diagonal lines represents movement, na excitement, something like that. Because may movement doon. Mga cars. Yun. Curve. When you go back to our definition or to our discussion kanina, pag sinabing curve, natural, freedom. So, kaya makikita mo dito, I just don't know the exact name of the structure. Pero kung isipin mo, this apartment here, yung roof niya, curved, no? Freedom, not the typical type of roof. No? Siguro, the designer just want to design outside of the common design of roof. So, yun, design niya is curved, no? Probably it also speaks about the owner. Baka doon yung gusto niya. It's because you want that the design will speak about freedom, will speak about the natural. So that's why. Now, yung Sydney Opera House, maraming konseptong Sydney Opera House eh. I will not go to that. Pero kung titingnan nyo, yun. Ito yung itsura niya. Not the typical opera house, but a different one because of the unique design of the roof. So, yun. It is designer, the architect of the opera house is John Utzon. So, yun. So, now we'll proceed with texture. Ano ba yung texture na tinatawag natin? Yun. Texture is the way a surface feels or the way it is perceived to feel. It has the power to attract or to detract a viewer's eyes and can be applied to lines, shapes, and forms. So, yung lines may texture, yung shape may texture, yung forms may texture. So, and when you talk about texture, it is how we feel the surface. Anong feeling mo pag hinawakan mo yung surface? Magaspang, makinis, o may bako-bako or something? No, that's texture. Now, there are two types of textures. Number one, we have the tactile and the visual. So, tactile texture is the tactile quality of a surface. Yung the actual quality, no, of the surface. It can be rough, it can be smooth, it can be sticky, it can be fuzzy, it can be soft or slick, no? A real texture is one you can actually feel with your hand, no? Such as piece of sandpaper. It can be a wet glass or the animal fur, no? It can also be created by an artist by doing a collage, no? So that's tactile structure. But when you talk about visuals, ano yung sabi ko? uh, tactile texture. Now, when you talk about visual texture is a visual quality of a surface because it is the result of from painting or drawing as the real texture. So, yun. Visual texture is an illusion of texture created by an artist. Now, for example, nagpaint ka, or may nakita kang picture. What's the texture of the picture? Pero syempre, yung tactile texture niya, syempre makinis, picture yun eh. Pero when you talk about it visually, pwede mo makita, you can see a visual texture of that image. So, for example, on how when you look at the picture, no, soft ba? Ano ba, bakit soft? Siguro maraming puno, may mga shrubs, may mga flowers, no, may mga flowers. So, when you look at it, it seems that soft yung image na nakikita mo. Kasi may mga flowers, may shrubs, may background na clouds, so soft. Pero pag ang nakita mo sa image is stone, rock, ganon, the structure is rough. I mean the texture is rough. So, yun. Even in the landscaping, no, nakikita mo rin yung texture ng area ng paligid mo when you have plenty of plants, soft or flowers, and when you have that Bermuda grass planted in the area, soft tingnan sa mata, masarap tingnan sa mata. Pero pag nakikita mo naka tiles, tawag doon, naka bricks, no? At saka may mga stone formations, syempre medyo matigas tingnan or rough yung texture na nakikita mo. So, yun. Now, let's proceed with color. I know that you, like me, has favorite colors. Favorite color ko, ano ba? Depende. Hindi ako masyado mahilig sa color black. Bihira lang ako magsuot ng color black. Tsaka medyo hindi naman ako masyado mahilig sa color white. Anyway, ikaw may paborito ko rin color, di ba? Pero color is one of the hardest elements to harness. Bakit? And probably we'll learn that, no, later on. And probably one of the most challenging to understand. No? Difficult to harness, one of the most difficult to harness, and one of the most challenging to understand. The basics, however, are relatively easy. So, kasi syempre yung color, syempre daming color, no? Iba-ibang color. Yung nakikita mo sa likod ko, yung mga cover ng mga lockers dito, may blue, parang blue rin, at saka may purple ba to, pink or something yun. Maraming colors. And later on, we will understand how colors affect our life. No? Now, color can help the organization of a design. No? Yung color daw can help how we organize our design. It can give emphasis to a specific area or actions. So like other elements, it has few different properties. Syempre, yung colors may hue, saturation, and lightness. Search nyo na lang yung mga definitions nun. Unlike other elements, it does not always have to be used. No? A design can have the absence of colors. So yun daw. A design can also have the absence of colors. Pwedeng may color, pwedeng wala. Pwedeng black lang, pwedeng puti. So yes, black and white are still colors, but you get the point. So pwede na, ayun, basta. Let's proceed. And this is something exciting. So color has an immediate and profound effect to a design. So tingnan nyo to. Oh, no, so may mga structures dito, mga ordinary simple houses lang naman to. Pero kung titingnan mo, because iba-iba yung color ng bawat houses, para naging maganda siya tingnan, naging maganda sa mata, naging attraction siya. Now, here's the St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow, Russia. Parang sarap, parang candy, no? Parang kung titingnan mo, parang candy. Parang yung candy ba na nakasabit sa Christmas tree? Parang ang sarap kainin. So, it created a very good design, very good, attractive design, interesting design, or interesting cathedral because of how the artist or the designer played with colors. No, naalala ko talaga yung sinasabi ng professor ko, ni teacher ko. Yung idol, master, mentor, Architect D1, shout out sa kanya. Sabi niya sa akin when I had the time of doing plans for him after my graduation, sabi niya, learn to play with colors. Hindi ko talaga nakalimutan yun hanggang ngayon. And I'm sharing this with you because a color or colors, proper combination and proper application of colors can really have a good positive impact to your design. Learn to play with colors. Yun. So, may mga tawag dito. May warm colors, which, yung reds, oranges, yellows. Ano daw ba yung orange? Fruit ba to or color? Joke yun, pero corny lang. Proceed. Cool colors, blues, purples, greens, yun. Gaya nito. So, color can affect how human feel and act. So, yun. And I'll give more time on this now. So, ano ba, how can colors affect human feeling or a person? So, titingnan natin to isa-isa. Let's start. So, this presentation, I embedded this presentation by Sindel about psychology of color. So, when you talk about red is an incredibly intense color. It stimulates the heart and breathing to increase pace. So, ganun daw. Generally speaking, pag nakakita daw ng red, or kung may red, anong nararamdaman mo? Generally speaking, according to Sindel, it stimulates the heart and the breathing to increase pace. So, saan ba may red? Walang red eh. So, titingnan natin kung totoo, kung mag-i-increase ba yung heart rate ko, tsaka yung breathing ko. So, yun. No? Pag nakita ka ng red, lady in red, what do you feel about that? What are you going to feel? So, red cards are popular target of thieves. Nako, Sir Montefiore, Sir Gelmar Montefrio. Red ang car, yung akin maroon. Sir Kim, red din yung car. Nako, ingat-ingat daw, because that's the most popular targets of thieves. Pero because yung color red, intense color, madaling makita, very mainit sa mata, especially nung mga nagnanakaw, no? Shout out sa kanila, wag kang ganyan yun, bawal sa mga yun. Red can cause you to feel hunger. So kung ikaw, nagda-diet ka, gusto mo somehow mag-lose weight, gusto mo magpa-sexy ng konti, avoid ka sa color red. Kasi sabi nila, it can cause you to feel hunger. Dapat color green, color blue, no? Para hindi ka madaling gutumin. No? So yun daw yun. It can cause you to feel hunger. So yun yung red. So that's why nung mga unang panahon, nung wala pa masyadong sticker, pagpasok mo ng Jollibee, colors lang yung paintings tsaka colors yung makikita mo sa wall. So yung red, kadalasan nun is color red. Jollibee, McDo, no, yung time nung bata pa ako, no, yun. That's why nakita nyo kadalasan ng mga logo ng mga fast food may color red o kung hindi red, orange because it can cause someone to feel hungry. So orange can make you feel enthusiastic. Are you feeling down? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling lonely? Orange can make you feel enthusiastic. I'm awake, alive, alive, enthusiastic. Yun daw yun. No? It can increase your appetite. No? Yun daw, yun nga, pagkasama sila, yun nga, kadalasan is, kung hindi red, orange. No? So, and most of the time, combination of the two, because it can stimulate the appetite of a person. No? So ngayon, although yung logo ng Jollibee, McDo, ng Chowking, ng Burger King, tsaka ano pa ba, nung Max, color, most of the time may color red o color orange, they do it because yun yung, yun yung effect eh. It stimulates appetite. Pero, so yung mang inasal, bakit color green? Siyempre, nabawi naman sa color ng manok. Ano, may pagka-orange, may pagka-something, yung color, yung interior nila, yung lamesa nila, tsaka yung mga stickers na dinidikit nila sa wall. Siyempre, pagtingin mo pa lang, nakikita mo yung mga inasal. No? Ang laki. Pagdating sa food mo, sarap. No? Pagdating sa table mo, yun, masarap. Masarap pa rin siya. Enjoy. Parang ginutom ako ah. Energy increases the oxygen flow to the brain. Nako, hindi yata maganda to. Kasi yung orange daw, yung hangin sa ulo mo, nag-increase daw yung flow. No? Maraming hangin sa ulo mo. It's dangerous. Ne, joke. Kidding aside, but when you have increased oxygen flow to your brain, syempre maganda yung function ng brain mo. No? So, ganun yung nangyayari doon di ba? Orange. So, next, yellow. Yellow can cause people to lose tempers. Bakit daw? So, yun. Pero diba dapat pag yellow joy, in some other situations, it happens. But basically, yellow, sabi nila, can cause people to lose their tempers. When yellow makes babies cry, and it is hard for eye to take in. Siyempre, masakit daw sa mata yung color yellow. No? Masakit daw sa mata yung color yellow. That's why, siguro daw siyempre masilaw. Kung tatamaan pa siya ng sunrise or ng sunlight, medyo masilaw. If you're the baby, bago pa lang yung mata mo, medyo it's hard for that young baby to endure the sunlight. So, medyo masilaw. So, yun daw. Yellow also enhances concentration. So, kung hindi ka makakonsentrate, kung maraming gumugulo sa paligid mo or gumugulo sa isip mo, if you want proper concentration, so, dapat color yellow. And if you want better functioning brain because of the oxygen flow in your brain, pwedeng orange. So, combination of yellow, combination of orange, yellow and orange, so that it will have an effect. Hindi mo syempre, so depende na sa'yo kung as a designer, kung paano mo gagawin. Yun. Siguro isang side na yellow, isang side na orange. Or portion yellow, may orange. No? Lagyan mo na rin ng red para lagi kang gutom. Anyway. So, yellow also enhances concentration. So, yun daw yun. Metabolism. So, kung feeling mo bloated ka, siguro baka hindi lang natunaw yung mga kinakain mo. Yellow para mas mabilis ma-digest, mas mabilis yung metabolism mo para hindi ka tumaba. No? Kasi nagiging bloated yung katawan mo because of the food na parang bagal-bagal matunaw, na bagal-bagal ma-digest. So, it speeds up metabolism. Now, green. Green can improve vision and it's easy on the eye. That is why, from time to time, ang sarap lumabas dito sa city. Punta ka sa mga places na may nature. Like, for example, basta, maraming place dito na pwede mo puntahan na makikita mo mga may nature. Like in Bukhari, may pine trees, may mountains, and in effect, it gives you a relaxed feeling. And it gave your eyes rest from the view na makikita mo dito sa city. No? So, yun daw yun. Green also relaxes people. This is the reason actors wait in green rooms before appearing on television. Hindi ko na-experience kasi ito eh. Hindi naman ako artista. Pero sabi dito, may mga green rooms na tinatawag na before appearing on a television, yung mga, siguro yung mga artists, mga actors, no, pagpasok mo doon, papapasukin ka sa isang room na may green, in effect, nagiging relax ka, no? Medyo nakakalma ka. Siyempre, nervous ka eh. Kinakabahan ka eh. So, pagpasok mo doon, ang nangyayari is medyo nare-relax ka kahit pa paano. So, may mga green rooms na tinatawag. So, though green is relaxing, it is said to bring bad luck. Yun. No? Humans see more shades of green than any other color. Tama naman. Kahit halos lahat yata ng lugar, may mga green kang makikita eh. Pumunta ka ng bundok, syempre green madalas mo makita doon. Pumunta ka ng saan pa ba? No? So, yun, green. Yun, nanto ako ah. Anyway, that's green. Now, let's proceed with color blue. Sino sa inyo yung favorite color niyo is color blue? Blue cause the opposite effects. Opposite that, ano ba yan? Blue causes the opposite of effects as red. No? So, kung ano daw yung effect ng red, like for example, it stimulates your breathing, your heart rate, no? Or yung mas mabilis kang nagugutom, it stimulates your appetite. Para the opposite, ang opposite nun is what color blue can cause or can do to a person. So, blue causes the body to release calming chemicals and relaxes people. So, dapat pala kailangan ko ng color blue ngayon. Maraming color blue para medyo makarelax tsaka medyo makarelease yung body ko ng mga calming chemicals. So, that's color blue. Now, slows heart rate and lowers body temperature. Now, kung mainit ka, punta ka sa may lugar na may mga color blue. And later on, the effect of that to you is that it will lower your body temperature. It will also lower your heart rate. So, yun daw yung color blue. That's why sabi nila, relaxing yung color blue. Relaxing yung color blue. Kagaya at the same time yung color green, ganun din. So, yun. That's why, ang sarap tumingin sa sky. Puti yung sky, tsaka parang medyo may mga may tendency ng ulan. Now, let's proceed with color pink. Pink is a tranquilizing and romantic color. Sabi nila, only a real man can I don't know. Pero eto, tranquilizing and romantic. So, dapat pala nagsusuot ako ng color pink so that I can tranquilize and I can appear as someone that is romantic daw. No? So, tranquilizing, meaning, for example, may galit sa'yo yung tao, pag nakita niya yung mukha mo, pero nagalit siya, pero nakita niya nakapink ka, parang medyo nakalma siya ng konti. Medyo nawala yung init ng ulo niya sa'yo. No? That can be that tranquilizing effect of color pink. That's why sinasabi ko sa mga estudyante ko, kung may mga problema, may mga kaaway kayo, or may mga traso kayo, tsaka harapin yung taong yun, suot ka ng color pink. Somehow, I do not know. I also tried this several times. No? Kung alam kong medyo mainit yung ulo ng tao nun sa akin, ang ginagawa ko is nagsusuot ako ng color pink. So, maybe, I don't know, may tranquilizing effect daw yung color pink. So, yun. Medyo na gumagaan yung loob kahit pa paano. Medyo nakakalma yung galit kahit pa paano. So, pwede nyo rin gawin yun, no? Especially mga boys, kung galit sa inyo yung girlfriend nyo, suot ka ng color pink. Para medyo kahit pa paano pagharap nyo, Hindi siya ganun kagalit. Ganun din sa girls, no? Now, sports teams often paint the opposing team's locker rooms pink to make them lose energy. No? For example, kung home court ng isang team, yung yung dugout ng isang team, pipintahan nila ng color pink. Para daw ganun. Para daw medyo tranquilized sila, wala silang energy, hindi sila ganun ka-energetic. So, pink. Pink daw pwedeng gawin yun. Okay, next. Can cause you to abandon logic thinking and become sensitive. Ay, ganun daw. Eh, yung laptop kong to, color pink to. So that's why siguro parang nawawala ako sa logical thinking kag nagiging sensitive. Eh, in a way. So, yun daw yun. Sa color pink. Sino sa inyo ang color pink ang favorite color? Now, let's proceed with color white. White makes people feel a sense of innocence and purity. Oh, yun daw yung color white. Pag color puti, purity, malinis, cleanliness, and innocence. No, that's why yung gown ng mga kinakasal na babae, color white, no? Tsaka ano pa ba? No? Cleanliness, purity, yon. Maraming ganun. So yun yung purity and innocence. No, ang ganda ng ano, ang ganda ng ng ano ng kitten. Kitten, ano to? Rabbit, kitten. Tsaka yun, yung flower, no? Ganda ng flower. Pure innocence. So, when you talk about color brown, yung brown daw, it is also calming. Brown can convey sadness and isolation. So, sabi nila, no, pag brown daw, it conveys sadness and isolation. It can also cause a sense of warmth, comfort, and security. So for example, mga coffee shop, kaladalasan ng mga colors ng coffee shop, may mga accent or may mga shades of color brown, may mga rustic colors. So primarily color brown, yun. So kung gusto mo ng feeling of coziness, feeling of, parang inalagay nilang colors, color brown na warm, comfort, and security sa color brown. Kung gusto mo ng kape, masarap na kape, nagkakape ka, usually ang mga colors na ginagamit ng mga coffee shop, color brown. Cozy, cozy effect, calming effect. So yun, ano ba to? Chocolate. Pwede sarap ng chocolate kasi brown. Anyway, black. Black shows authority and power. Yun daw yung black. Authority and power. That's why yung men in black, no? Americana, black. Because, na-notice nyo, nagsusuot ng color ng Americana. Siyempre, black yun, usually. Parang dignified. Parang may authority. Usually, yung mga nagre-represent, mga presenters, naka-ready sila, naka-suit sila. Because, siyempre, aside sa presentation nila, ng self nila, yung color na color black also creates feeling or an image of authority and power. So that's why ganun yun. Implies submission, but at the same time, sabi niya implies submission. Please wear black to signify submission to God. Yun, in that case, no, in that case. Pero yun, usually black also signifies authority and power. But in some cases like this one, yung sa priest, submission to God, their God. Black also suggests aloofness or evil. So, syempre, di ba? Madalas, di ba, ganon? Anong color ng damit ni Satanas? Color puti? Syempre, hindi. Usually, syempre, nakikita natin how do they portray Satanas or mga demons. Syempre, yung black. Black yung yung katawan, black yung color ng skin. I mean, yung black talaga na black ba? Hindi brown. So, ganun. Pula yung mata. May tinidor. Can also cause one to feel rebelliousness. So, ganun, no? Yo, no? Rebellion. Okay. Now, we'll talk about space. By incorporating the use of space, you can enlarge and reduce the visual space. Open, so may tinatawag tayong space. Ano ba yung mga space? Kagaya dito, space. This is space. Hallway ng ng architecture department, space. May iba't ibang type ng space, yung open, uncluttered, cramped, busy space, unused, yung yan, open, uncluttered spaces, cramped, no, spaces. Yan. Okay. So, yun yung space, no? Yun yung mga examples nun, yung mga types, open. Pag sinabi mong open space, yung uncluttered, medyo maliwalas, medyo maluwang, hindi magulo, medyo nakaka-relax rin because uncluttered, open, no? Open plan, walang masyadong partition. Meron ting tawag na cramped or busy space. Nakagaya na sa picture na nakikita natin, no? Ang daming tao, how do you imagine being that space? Lahat nag-uusap, lahat nagsasalita. Siyempre parang naguguluhan ka. So, ito yung example ng open and uncluttered. Maliwalas, ang sarap sa mata, ang sarap siguro matulog dyan, ang sarap siguro puntahan ng ganung lugar. Now, in architecture, we are always challenged to have the good use of space. No? To maximize the space, we are avoiding dead spaces. When you say dead spaces, ito yung mga space na pwede pa sanang magamit. Kaso, yung pag-layout mo ng structure ng space mo, pag-orient mo ng mga furnitures mo, pag-orient mo siguro ng mga pintuan mo, ng mga bintana mo, hindi maganda, ang nangyayari may mga spaces na nasasayang, na sana pwede pa sanang magamit at pwede pa sanang magamit at ma-utilize. So, in architecture, we are always challenged to do good use of space. So, yun. Okay, value. Let's skip this. This is part of colors. Now, we will proceed with the principles of design. Mag-iisang oras na ako nagsasalita. Sobrang tagal pala nito. So, what are the principles of design? Let's proceed. There are 7 principles encompasses an interesting design. Ano ba yon? Balance, rhythm, ano ba yung rhythm? Emphasis, proportion and scale, movement, contrast, unity. So, yun. So, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 principles of design. Let's proceed with balance. So, sabi nga natin kanina, when you talk about principles, these are the rules that you have to follow in making your design. When you talk about elements, these are the tools that you can use in creating a design. Now, we'll proceed with the first principle, which is balance. It is the part of the design are usually contributed to create sense of stability. Both physical and visual balance exist. So, if you want to create a sense of stability, dapat may balance. Ito hindi to balance kung ganito. No? So, ganito, dapat balance. So, in your design, yun yung somehow kine-create natin. Na parang hindi mabigat yung isang side, hindi mas mabigat yung isang side sa isang side. Na parang, kung sa barko, parang aangat yung likuran, aangat yung harapan, lulubog yung likuran. So, dapat balance because it creates a sense of stability. There are various types of balance. We have symmetrical, ay tawag nating formal balance. We have asymmetrical, opposite sang symmetrical kag informal. Yung radial, meaning may radius, may center point. Vertical balance, no? Balance yung sa taas, tsaka yung sa ilalim. And horizontal balance. So, yun. Let's proceed. So, example ng symmetrical balance is itong famous Taj Mahal Mausoleum in India. So, the elements within the design are identical in relation to the center line or axis. So kung lalagyan mo ng axis dito sa gitna, kung ano makikita mo dun sa kaliwa, yun din yung makikita mo dun sa kanan. Yun nga, symmetrical or formal balance nga. So, they applied that to their design. Bakit? Because that is a mausoleum. It should create a feeling of formality, no? Of seriousness. No? That's why balance yung pagkakadesign. Hindi pwedeng hindi balance, nagiging fancy yung mukha niya, nagiging fancy yung itsura niya because and it will no longer relate to the purpose of the structure, which is a mausoleum for Mumtaz Mahal. Tama? Also, asymmetrical balance. Parts of the design are not identical but equal in visual weight. So, titingnan natin dito, ang building na to. This is the Chateau de Chaumont in Saône-et-Loire, France. So, kung titingnan mo, kung titingnan mong design na to, no? Mas mahaba tong portion na to compared sa dito, no? Pero anong nakikita mo? Mas heavy tingnan to, no? Yung structure na to mas heavy tingnan because of the several chimneys, heavy design na mga roof, tsaka mga malalaking mga walls, mga protruding na mga walls. Unlike dito na parang refine lang siya, medyo refine lang siya. Although may malaking structure dito, pero kung titingnan mo, mas mahaba to, pero mas malaki, tsaka mas mataas to. So, yun nga yung nangyari dito. This is asymmetrical, pero but when you look at the visual weight of the structure, they are still balanced. No? So, ganon. Let's proceed. Now, when you talk about radial balance, of course, design elements radiate outward from the center. So, may central, may central portion ng structure. Tsaka may radius, nagra-radiate from the center going to the outside. So, yun, yung Dresden, France in Germany, Galleria Vittorio Emanuele in Milan, Italy. So, yung mga mga ceiling nila, yung mga dome nila, ito yung mga itsura. Ito yung mga mukha. This is a dome. May cupola sa gitna and nagra-radiate from that center point going to the outside portions of the dome. So, we've got him dito sa may Milan, Italy. Sa may Galleria Vittorio. So, that's what we call radial balance. No? Isa lang yung radius, parehas lang yung size ng radius. Hindi nag-iiba. This is vertical balance. Bakit naging vertical balance? Kasi, because of the reflection of that lake, no, ito yung para ito yung horizon yung horizontal line dito sa gitna. So kung ano nakikita mo dito sa ilalim, almost same lang yung size niya, yung reflection niya dun sa original yung structure niya. So may balance, vertical from top to the lower portion of the image, no? Pareho sila kalaki, nag-reflect lang siya because of the lake. So that's what we call vertical balance. Next is yung horizontal balance. So parang related rin siya sa symmetrical. Bakit? The parts on the left and the right sides are equal. So yung mga nakikita mo sa left, nakikita mo sa right, left and right, they are equal. So, from left going to the right in the direction, horizontal movement. So, the elements, the parts, they are equal. So, parang related siya sa vertical. So, ito. Kung titingnan mo, no, parang siya, except lang dito sa structure na to. Pero dito, yung mga towers sa gilid, they are balanced. Next is rhythm. Repeated use of line, shape, color, texture, or pattern. So yun na nga. May line tayo, that's element of design. May shape tayo, may color tayo, may texture. So, yun. May, pwede rin forms, patterns. So, ginagamit mo yung mga lines, depende kung paano mo siya gagamitin, and it creates rhythm. No? Sometimes maganda yung rhythm, sometimes hindi maganda. Depende sa pagkakaayos mo, depende sa paggamit mo ng mga elements mo. So there are different types of rhythm, yung regular rhythm, graduated rhythm, random rhythm, and gradated rhythm. So when you talk about regular rhythm, an element is repeated at the same repetition interval each time. So, itong element na to, pagkatapos may color brown dito, the way it is used, no? Pagdating dito magkaiba, syempre, no? Pero ito, the way it was used, yung portion na to, ginamit din dito. In-apply dito. But at the same time, ito, yung nasa gitna, kung paano ginamit ito, same way man, same way siya din siya na ginamit dito sa portion na to. And so on and so forth. Even the movement of the tiles, no, yung ground dito, same siya kung paano siya ginamit. Saan? Dito sa portion na to. No? Ito naman, same siya ginamit sa portion na to. Same siya in a way ginamit sa portion na to. So dito ganun din, no? Kung ano style ginawa dito, ganun din sa kabila. Typical na hanggang dun sa dulo. So that's rhythm. So ikaw na yung nag-create ng rhythm eh. So an element is repeated at the same repetition interval each time. So rhythm, we have what we call random rhythm. So bakit naging rhythm to? The beats of the elements are random or at irregular intervals. So nakita natin dito yung tinatawag natin na onion type dome or onion dome in St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow, in Russia. So, random rhythm. Bakit random? May iba't ibang size ng dome. Pareho yung, almost, pareho yung form, onion, pero magkakaiba yung ano niya, itsura. Itsura in what way? Because of colors, because of the size, because of, sometimes may ibang ano na parang iba yung pagkaka-form niya, parang mas flat siya, mas mataba, mas mataas, something ganon. Pero because isa lang siya, kumbaga ang ginawa dito, yung elements na yon o yung bagay na yon, yung tawag doon, onion type dome, ginamit in various ways, nagka-create ng rhythm. Ang ganda pa rin tingnan. Parang organized pa rin siya tingnan. Because of the onion dome, maybe different in colors, different in shape, different in the way it was formed, pero nag-create siya na ang nangyari is parang maganda pa rin siya tingnan because of the rhythm. Tama ba? Naintindihan niyo pa? Now, we have what we call gradated rhythm. The repeated element is identical with the exception of one detail increasing or decreasing gradually with each repetition. So, the repeated element is identical. Now, for example, ito siya. Ang nangyari dito, ito nga, no? So, yung element na to, yung structure na parang one story lang siguro to, repeated, inulit, no? Pero times 2 na, pero same elements pa rin, same siguro na texture, same na size, pero ang ginawa lang, dinagdag lang dun siya. And same goes with this until it reach this portion, until na matapos sa siguro. So, gradated, meaning, yung elements is identical, isang element lang yung ginagamit, pareho lang na yung mga element, parehong elements lang yung ginagamit, pero ang nangyari lang is nag-i-increase lang, or probably pwede ring mag-decrease, no, gradually. In what way? Through the height, probably through the height. Same element, Same texture, same colors, same other elements applied, pero inulit-ulit mo lang, pero mas mataas lang. Tumataas ka ng konti hanggang mataas-taas ang taas niya. So that's gradated rhythm. Now, yun. Example ito, ganito rin. O, same element, rock. Yung texture niya parang pareho lang. Hindi kasama yung palaka. So, parang ganun din. Flat, may mga baku-bako, may mga hindi magandang texture, pero same element, same almost shape or form, pero ano mo, ginawa mo is pinagpatong-patong mo pero lumiliit ng lumiliit hanggang maliit na siya. So that's gradated rhythm. No? Ayun, same thing with this Chinese tower in Germany. So emphasis. The feature in a design that attracts one's eye. The focal point. Tandaan nyo to. No? Very important sa design mo yung tinatawag na focal point. Focal point. No? Focal point. So, dapat magtingin mo sa design mo. Saan yung focal point ng design mo? Meron ba o wala? Meron ba o wala? Emphasis can be achieved through size, placement, shape, color, and or use of lines. So, yun daw yung pwede mong paraan para ma-achieve mo yung tinatawag na emphasis. Na, tingnan natin yung mga ginagawa natin dito examples. Now, anong emphasis ng structure na to? I forgot this. Nakalimutan ko. Pero kung ano. Pero parang parehas din siya ng sa green farm natin dito sa may San Joaquin, no. So, kung titingnan mo, no, the emphasis is this, no, yung dome dito o yung structure dito with dome. So, paano siya naging emphasis? Paano siya naging focal point? Because of the location. Linagay mo siya sa pinakamataas. Ano pa? Line. Yung street mo from the lowest portion ng area, no? May line. Yung street mo, it served as line. And it dragged your attention, the attention of the viewer from the standing point going to the area na located yung structure na to. So, it created emphasis. Ano pa? Yung color. Color green yung mga backgrounds. Color green yung mga nakapalibot because of the trees, shrubs, of the ground covering, vegetation. Pero siya color puti. Tsaka yung color ng roof niya may pagka-color, I think color brown or gold to. So, it created emphasis. So, ganun yung nangyari doon. So, ikaw, kung paano mo gagawin yung emphasis sa design mo, it's up to you. Now, in Egypt, here's a mosque in Egypt. So, anong pinaka-focal point niya? Yung tower. Bakit? Because, that's the tallest part of the structure. Siyempre, makikita mo talaga. Hindi talaga mawawala sa paningin mo yan. Because, napakataas niya. And at the same time, may color siya na color green through the LED lightings, no? Na in-incorporate sa design nung tower. So that's why naiba ang color niya because of the effect na ginawa through the lightings. No? That's why naging highlight pa rin yung structure na yun, yung tower niya. This is ceiling mosaic. Ang ganda ng ceiling, no? Pero may kakaiba. Yun na break yung monotony ng ceiling na color puti because may accent, may ibang image kang nakita, may ibang portion ka na nakita na something that's different compared to the other parts of the ceiling. So yung parang may logo, no? Kaya ganun nangyari doon. Now, yung proportion and scale. So that's another principle, very important. The relationship between objects with respect to size, number, and so on, including the relation between the parts of a whole. So, for example, this is tong structure na to. I think this is the monument, the Capitol, no? The Washington Monument and this structure, kung hindi ako nagkamali. So kung iisipin mo, maganda yung proportion ng structure na to. Bakit? Itong monument na to, hindi siya naging masyadong malaki, hindi siya naging masyadong mataas. Because if in case na masyadong mataas to, kung titingnan mo siya sa picture, ang mangyayari parang hindi na siya proportion, nawawala na yung proportion. Ito naman, yung structure na to, hindi siya naging ganun kataas din kasi pag naging mataas, parang ang bigat na tingnan ng area. No? Tsaka kung masyado siyang mahaba, parang hindi na siya proportion. So, yon, no? So, even sa mga designs natin, even in the human scale, so may need sa proper proportioning. Proportion ng human size to the structure, to the size of the door, to the size of the window, and so on and so forth. No? So yung proportion, it is very important. Na hindi masyadong malak. For example, ganito kalapad yung area mo. No? Ganito kalapad yung area mo. Pagkatapos, ang taas ng building mo. Ang taas ng building mo. So, parang hindi na siya proportion because maliit lang yung portion ng area eh. Maliit lang yung base mo eh. Maliit lang yung location mo. So, ganun. And, yun, somehow. That's it. So, movement. Parang na-discuss din natin kanina to. Pero dun yun sa may dun yun sa may elements. But now, here in the principles, syempre, when talk about movement, it is also part of the principles. Yung kanina discuss pala natin, nasa elements yun. So now we are in the principles. Now, so yun, parang na-discuss ko na rin yun. So yung bridge na to, when you talk about movement, flow or feeling of action, no? So sabi ko nga kanina, atong bridge na to, anong actions nakikita dito? Action ng mga mga sasakyan. From one place to another, they are being connected by the bridge. So yung bridge na yan, dinesign not just to design a bridge, but to also convey the purpose of the structure which is related, which has something to do about movement. So the vertical cabling, cables, diagonally designed. Yung mga main post supports niya, hindi na lang ginawang vertical, pero ginawan pa ng design na parang pa-X, parang naka-diagonal siya because that's the image or that's the message that this structure is being conveyed. No? There's movement. The purpose of this is for moving vehicles, transferring from one place or moving from one place to another. Same thing with this ziggurat or ancient step pyramid. O yun yung tawag dito, yung temple of Kukulkan. This is in Central America. No, this is ziggurat. So ano to? Movement from the ground going to the most important part of the structure, which is the fire altar or the temple there, wherein they are doing the ritual. So movement, ano movement? From ground diagonally to the topmost portion. So ito naman, titingnan mo itong structure na to, yung facade niya, parang nagmumove ang mata mo. Parang nagmumove, parang dinadrag yung attention ng mata mo to wave. So may movement. Okay, now contrast. Bakit kailangan ng contrast? No. It is the most noticeably different portion of the structure. It can be created with color, proportion, and scale, shape, texture, etc. Parang tawag na parang emphasis din, no? Parang emphasis din siya. Parang a focal point din siya. Pero there's another way or there's another reason why we create contrast. So, in example of this building, anong contrast dito? Anong nag-create ng contrast? Yung color red na structure na part ng building na to. Kung wala tong color red na to, syempre color white lang lahat yan. And kung color white lang siya lahat, there is monotony. It creates boredom. Parang wala sang, parang walang interesting, parang hindi interesting yung facade. Kasi puti lang, tsaka ganun lang. No? To break the monotony, to break to break that feeling of being so simple and uninteresting, nilagyan ng ganitong structure yung may color, pinuntahan ng color red para naging interesting tingnan yung structure. It broke the monotony, it broke the boredom, and it made the facade something that is interesting by simply providing that structure na naka-protrude, and at the same time coloring it with color red that is that gives a feeling of excitement that stimulates the breathing or the heart rate. No? So naging maganda, nagka-create ng magandang contrast. Another example is the pyramid, the glass pyramid in Louvre, France. So, parang emphasis din siya, di ba? Parang siya yung pinaka-focal point sa area. Actually, if you're going to look at the history, controversial pa to. Bakit? Ang architect nito is si Yao Ming-pei or I.M. Pei, Chinese architect based in, I think, in America. Or basta, marami siyang structures, designs ng mga geometrical shaped buildings. And one of this is yung Louvre pyramid in Louvre, Paris, France, I mean. So controversial, bakit? Siyempre, classical yung area eh. Classical yung space. Pagkatapos lalagyan mo ng something modern, something pyramid. Pero anong nangyari dito sa space na to? Siyempre, puro classical, puro mga Renaissance building, puro mga typical classical building, no? Pero because of what Yao Ming-pei did when he provided or created or designed or provided a structure there, glass pyramid, na-break yung monotony ng area. Parang nagkaroon ng another recipe or another interesting thing sa area na yun. Na-break yung monotony, nagkaroon ng focal point, naging interesting yung place because of this. And this glass pyramid became the contrast, no, in the area. At the same time, the focal point. Na-notice ninyo sa mga toilets, no, sa mga hotels, syempre naka-tiles, naka-glass, nilalagyan nila ng mga kahit paano mga konting halaman, konting tanim, because it will also break the monotony. Parang nagkakaroon ng buhay yung space. And that is also contrast. So unity is achieved by the consistent use of lines, color, materials, and or texture with the design. So yun, proper usage of lines, proper usage of your design elements, no? Hindi lang lines, lahat ng mga design elements. So in effect, nakaka-create kita ng unity in our design. Yun. Example nun, ganito. So, as we end, ito lang talaga yun. These the design elements, form, shape, texture, color, space, movement. Yung principles, dapat walang movement. Erase mo na lang yung movement. Okay, sige. Yun ba? So, yung principles, balance, rhythm, emphasis, proportion, scale, movement, contrast, unity. So, by combining the elements, which is the tools, and combining it with the principle, which is the rules, ang nagiging labas niya is a good composition. No? So, good output. Yun yung nangyayari dun. That's why we should do it with the proper application of the elements and proper consideration and application of the principles. In effect, what will happen, what will come out is a good, interesting output or composition. Yun. So, yun. Doon tayo nagtatapos ang haba no. Sana na intindihan ninyo, sana hindi kayo nakatulog. And sana kung may mga tanong kayo, tanungin nyo ako or you can do still research. Now, let me just end with a quote. Design is not just what it looks like. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. So, tandaan natin, uh, Firmitas, Venustas, kag Utilitas. Not as an architecture, we look at the design, the beauty, but not the beauty alone. We also consider the strength of the structure. Not just the structure alone, but of course it should also be beautiful. Not just not just becoming beautiful and strong, but also useful. That's why yung tawag natin doon is utility, no? Or yung function. So design is not just how we feel about it, how we look at it, but how does it really work? Ang yung function niya ba? Is it really functioning in a way it is intended to be? Tama ba yun? Is it really functioning the way it should be? Yun yung design. Yun yung architecture. So, yun. Somehow na-elaborate ko siya. Sana na-elaborate ko siya ng maayos. And ngayon, that's how this lecture ends. So, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for staying. And I hope that you did not feel sleepy and tired while listening to this. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.